Okay, everybody, good morning and welcome to the 13th annual the 13th annual Leaders in Literacy Breakfast. Now, obviously, we are not all together eating a nice meal at the Washington and Duke Inn. And I'm just really grateful to you for joining us today to celebrate adult literacy in Durham. For your information, this event is being streamed via Zoom and Facebook Live, and it will be recorded. So for the last 12 years, we've gathered together to celebrate the extraordinary accomplishments of our students, volunteers, staff, and we wish we could enjoy this meal with you and feel the positive energy as we come together as a community around adult literacy. So I'm especially thankful to you all for joining us today and making adult literacy a priority during a very difficult time. We certainly didn't plan to have this event during the coronavirus crisis and the unrest that our nation is experiencing due to racism and police brutality against Black and brown people. I truly hope that you and your loved ones are okay. We at the Durham Literacy Center mourn the death of George Floyd and all the victims of racism. 35 years ago, the Durham Literacy Center was created to help correct the inequalities of centuries of racism. We empower people through literacy. Our students, our volunteers, staff, partners, and donors represent true American values. We work together for a fairer, a more just society, where each person has the tools they need for a better life. We are proud that we are part of a community of Durham that works together to address the injustices and systemic racist structures. We applaud the protests in the streets. We condemn the violence taking place in many cities. The events in Minneapolis and around the country bear witness to the ever-present racism. This must change. We know there's much more work to do that needs to be done, and we will continue to fight these injustices the best we can with your help. Together, we can make a change. Before we begin the program, I feel it's important that we take a moment of silence to acknowledge the people who have died at the hands of police and others, both those in name and many who are unnamed. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others. So please, if we could just join in a moment of silence. Thank you so much. And while we begin in a somber moment, we do join today in celebration. I want to go over our agenda this morning. Let's see, it did not advance there. Sorry, Amy, can you do that for me? Great. All right, thank you all. So today we're going to give you an overview of the Durham Literacy Center's programs, our recent accomplishments, and an update on how we're adapting to the coronavirus crisis. Then we're going to hear from our keynote speaker, Gene Nichol. And after that, we're excited to share a video of our students that they took from their homes. And then finally, I'll turn things over to Amy Bogie, our Director of Development, who'll let you know how you can get involved with the work of the Durham Literacy Center. Normally, we'd present our annual Leaders in Literacy Award. We're not going to do that today, with hopes that we can do that in the near future when we can all be together. There you go, Amy. You could advance the slide. So we need to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our very generous business sponsors who've made this event possible. Our teacher level sponsors deserve a special shout out for their significant giving. These are the Duke Office of Durham and Community Affairs, the Forest at Duke Retirement Community, and SunTrust Truist Bank. Thank you. Hearty thanks to our instructor level sponsors, Blair Publishing, C.T. Wilson Construction, Duke Energy, Dr. Lisa L. Hampton, Lulu Press, Mad Rock Advisors, Morningstar Law Group, PNC Bank, and Wyrick Robbins. And to our 13 tutor level and in-kind sponsors, thank you so much for supporting our mission and programs. So here's our fine building. If you've never been to see us, we are in the Lakewood, across the street from the Lakewood Shopping Center on Chapel Hill Road. Our mission is to help adults meet their life goals by offering learner-centered educational opportunities. We believe that all adults have the power to change their lives and their community through literacy. We were founded in 1985, and at that time, it was a hopeful time in America and North Carolina, in the post-Civil War era, and an opportunity to right educational injustices that remained after Jim Crow. Then in the late 90s, we started our English for Speakers of Other Languages program in response to the influx of the Latinx immigrant community and families, and more recently with more refugees who've come to our town. Over the last 35 years, unfortunately, the problem of low literacy and low educational attainment, particularly for Black and brown people and for immigrant individuals and families, this problem of low literacy persists. It's estimated that up to 20% of adults lack basic literacy skills in Durham. This is according to the National Assessment for Adult Literacy. And according to the census, we know these are underreported numbers, but about 13% of Durham adults lack a high school diploma. 5% of households in Durham speak limited English, and somewhere between 4,500 and 6,000 young adults between the ages of 16 to 24, a group called the Opportunity Youth, they are not engaged in school or work. This is in our fair city, the place where we love. More recently, so it's a really serious problem, and we're excited that we can tackle it with your support. More recently, in 2018, we successfully merged with the Achievement Academy of Durham, a highly respected nonprofit organization providing high school equivalency programming and college and career readiness to these Opportunity Youth. The Achievement Academy has now officially merged with the Durham Literacy Center's Youth Education Program to form the Youth Achievement Program. Now, to bring you up to speed, we are now a dynamic nonprofit with 6 programs, 12 full-time and 3 part-time staff members, plus 2 contractors and over 235 volunteers. Our main programs are adult literacy and basic education, English for speakers of other languages, computer or digital literacy, the Youth Achievement Program, our Durham Literacy Program and the Durham County Detention Facility, and a special unique project with the Threshold Clubhouse. The majority of our instruction is carried out by over 230 volunteer tutors and several paid staff. Our staff are experts in the field and trained volunteers to use evidence-based practices for teaching adults. Our programs in the Durham County Detention Facility is in special partnership with the Durham County Sheriff's Office. 2 full-time instructors help prepare students who are in the jail to pass their high school equivalency exams. Last year, we served about 769 individuals. Of these students, 281 were immigrant and refugee students from many different language bases, from many different countries and language bases. Our adult literacy program served about 150 adults, 75 of whom attended enough to progress towards their educational goals. I'm also excited to highlight the 33 adults and older youth who completed their high school equivalency diplomas in our programs. This is a game changer that directly impacts their life's trajectories. 18 graduates were served in the Achievement Academy and Youth Education programs, and 14 of these graduates obtained their diplomas while detained in the Durham County Detention Facility, significantly improving their outlooks for self-efficacy and job success upon release. Lifelong learning is the key to success, and we encourage our students to continually set new goals. It's not unusual for many of our adult learners to work for years to advance from beginning literacy to high school equivalency or for our English for speakers of other languages students to transition from ESL to high school equivalency. I hope that all of you here agree that education is the fundamental human right that truly changes everything, from self-esteem to self-efficacy, to skills to support children's education, to managing healthcare, to transferable workplace skills, to the high school credential that's required for every single living wage career pathway in town. We see our students transforming as they build new skills, and that's our most important outcome. Here you go, Amy, if you could advance. Thank you. So we need to, oops, excuse me, so sorry. We work closely with many, many community partners, and we could not do this work without you. It is vital that we do this in partnership with our whole community. So we just want to thank our many partners who make our programs possible. And special thanks to our local elected officials for being so supportive over the years. And also thanks especially to Durham County, who is our biggest supporter. There you go, Amy. So a few quick updates about what we've been doing during the coronavirus crisis. We've been closed since the middle of March, and that's a big deal for us. And it's been very difficult, as I know it's been very difficult for you as well. Many students are currently engaged in remote learning opportunities. However, there's a vast digital divide in Durham and in North Carolina. You might have read about it, you might have heard about it, but it is profound and it's impacting our ability to meet our mission right now. Most of our students lack internet access. Many do not have the proper equipment they need to learn online. Many share devices with all their kids who've been doing home remote learning as well. Also, many of our students have limited digital literacy skills, which makes it challenging to continue their learning online. Many students also do not have the privilege to quarantine at home, and those who can work must, putting them at greater risk for the virus, but also pausing their education in many cases. Unfortunately, we have not been able to provide any remote learning opportunities to our students in the Durham County Detention Facility at this time, and we're working very closely with the jail staff and with the Sheriff's Office to figure out a way to serve those students as soon as possible. So there are many, as I've just stated, there are many barriers that our students are experiencing right now. There are many barriers that they experience all the time, but during this coronavirus crisis, it's especially notable. So as we continue to contingency plan for the fall, we're trying to figure out how we open and when we open safely. We know that many of our students are vulnerable to the virus. We know that many of our volunteers are also vulnerable to the virus. So we've really got to think this through. And probably the biggest question I have, and this is one thing we definitely need help figuring out, is how do we serve our hardest to serve students? Those students with the lower skills who are really out there struggling with the technology, struggling to continue their learning and change their lives and support their families. So we're working on that, and we need your help, and we really appreciate you being here with us today. All right, Amy. So now's the part that you're really excited to hear. I'm excited to hear from Gene Nichol. Gene is an anti-poverty hero in these parts. He's the Boyd Tinsley Distinguished Professor at the University of North Carolina and was the director of the UNC Poverty Center until it was closed by the Board of Governors for publishing articles that were critical of the governor and the General Assembly. Since 2015, his research has been supported by the North Carolina Poverty Research Fund. He's a former president of the College of William and Mary, the law dean at the University of Colorado, and the dean of the law school at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He's the author of Indecent Assembly, the North Carolina Legislature's War on Democracy and Equality, and The Faces of Poverty in North Carolina, Stories from Our Invisible Citizens, and many, many, many other published articles and op-eds. He has won many awards, including the Order of the Longleaf Pine, Equal Justice Works Pro Bono Dean of the Year, the Courage to Do Justice Award from the National Employment Lawyers Association, and the Thomas Jefferson Award for Defense of Religious Liberty from the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, and many, 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 many other awards. So I am absolutely thrilled and delighted that Professor Nichol has joined us and is willing to share with us his point of view and his knowledge on what's going on in our communities and to give us a little inspiration today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lizzie. I'm delighted to be here. As Lizzie and Amy know, I'm a little technology challenged, so I'm glad when we can get this to work out. I'm home in Chapel Hill on my back porch, and it's not yet really sunny here, so I see on the picture I look a little shaded. Let me just say, I look a lot better when I'm shaded, or even best when it's dark and far away. So, and I wanted to apologize for, you can't tell so much because I just got out of the shower, but my hair is really long. I always sort of need a haircut, but I really need one now. I heard a rumor that Phil Berger wanted to open up these barbershops to give me access to a haircut. But anyway, I'm delighted to be here. This particularly with Durham Literacy, for which I am a huge fan, and I'll talk about some. I'm glad to see all these sponsors involved, very Duke oriented. I'm sort of a Chapel Hill person myself, but if it's any consolation, the Durham Literacy offices are on Chapel Hill Boulevard. So that opens the door a little bit. I, like Lizzie said, it's sort of difficult to tell where to start in these times and where to end up. These are difficult days. I thought I might start with just two quotes, just for perspective. They're not going to provide any answers, but just perspective. The first, I've been doing a little work again of late with Reverend Barber, and he said this 2 weeks ago now, I think it is. We cannot allow people in power to be comfortable with other people's deaths. We just cannot allow that anymore. The second is from Donald Trump, who said, and I quote, "Nobody loves the Bible more than me. When you hold up a Bible, you don't then go out and lie or do things that are bad or wrong." Yeah. Now I don't want to leave you as we start with a bad taste in your mouth, so I'm going to repeat that first quote again. Reverend Barber, we cannot allow people in power to be comfortable with other people's deaths. We just cannot allow that anymore. And that speaks to a lot of the issues that I want to talk about, some a little later. It speaks to issues of our past, issues of our present, issues of our future. But to begin, let me just reiterate how honored I am to be with you. I was thinking about this yesterday, that you folks who show by the character of your work and your effort and your courage, particularly you students in difficult and demanding study, in your selflessness, in your potent commitment to the idea that despite all the challenges we face, we are, as a final matter, all in this together. The way I was thinking about it, you live out Václav Havel's definition of hope, which he described not as a prediction of success or a description of the world around us, but as a predilection of the spirit, a sort of habit of the heart. Living in the conscious choice that we can make a difference in the quality of our shared and sometimes threatened lives. When you think about it, it's the nobler of contested hypotheses. So I'm honored, at least electronically, to be in the same room with you. The Durham Literacy Center, particularly, that, as Lizzie has indicated, for over 3 decades, has worked to help adults meet their life goals and further their life chances by offering this marvelous learner-centered educational opportunity. Recognizing that each person has the power to change his or her life and that of their families and their community and their state, and we should say even their nation. Working to help those who may begin without basic literacy skills, and maybe perhaps even a high school diploma or English language proficiency. But Literacy Center programs are offered tuition-free, which is made possible by the contributions of 230 plus volunteers who miraculously, I would say, offer their time each year. Durham Literacy has served over 18,000 students in Durham. Think about that. Almost 800 students last year. I like to let that sink in for a second. What could offer greater tribute than that statement? 18,000 students in Durham. Thousands of adults learning to read, to write a letter, to communicate with their kids' teachers, to better manage their health and finances. Hundreds securing better jobs, high school equivalency credentials, even college degrees eventually, after building their skills in this marvelous program. As my grandma used to say, sweet Jesus. Thank you, sweet Jesus. 90% of Durham literacy students are low-income folks, those with the deck stacked against them in North Carolina. 80% are persons of color, over half are immigrants or refugees, those who are often forced to make a way out of no way, and who do it against all odds. But they do it, of course, with heart and with friends and with teachers and with generous supporters like many of the folks on this Zoom. So I'm going to stop talking about Durham literacy before I get all weepy. And this year, of course, you make your efforts in the shade of this virus and these astonishing challenges, especially for folks who don't have the luxury of computers or don't get the option of distance work or distance learning. Now for almost 3 months, I guess it's been going. And for many others whose lives have been made tougher in many and varied ways, lost employment, lost health care, sickness, hunger, lost housing, and who have added demands of daycare, childcare, lots of frontline jobs, which are said to be necessary, but we act like are expendable. Opening up even further the great fissures of this polarized society, knowing now as we do that lots of new folks will become even more seriously marginalized, further marginalized in what has now become, without peer, the richest, the poorest, and the most unequal society in the world. Despite all the stuff we pledge allegiance to and make school kids repeat of liberty and justice for all, the richest, the poorest, and the most unequal society in the world. So, welcome to the 13th Leaders in Literacy Breakfast, its annual fundraising event for Durham Literacy Center. Congratulations to all the supporters, volunteers, staff, and most of all, students. That's the most important thing I'm going to say this morning. This is an inspiring and marvelous morning. But I usually try to do a little mission work when I'm on the stump or even electronically on the stump. So let me offer just a couple more things. Things that won't surprise you, things that a lot of you could explain in much greater depth and with much greater power than I can. But let me have a go at it still. As I hinted, this is a great and remarkable country with tremendous power and wealth, the most ever generated anywhere, anytime. But it's not a fair country. I know people can always come up with explanations and justifications and excuses, but you can't really be the richest, the poorest, and the fairest major country in the world. It's not possible to square those particular circles. And even before these demonstrations and before our virus and our massive job losses and self-inflicted unemployment compensation losses and healthcare losses, even before all this, about a quarter of our kids in North Carolina were poor. More than a third of all Black kids and Latino kids. We are each year one of the hungriest states in America, especially for children, most especially for kids under the age of 5. Here in one of the most economically vibrant states of the richest nation on earth, the richest nation in human history, here we have great challenges of concentrated, often heavily racialized, concentrated poverty. We have them in Durham, in Raleigh, in Charlotte, in Greensboro, in Winston-Salem, in Goldsboro, and High Point, where my students and I have been working a lot lately. High Point, which is often tagged with Greensboro in the last 10 years as being the hungriest metropolitan area in America. Working a lot in Wilkes County, sort of mountain rural poverty, where of course we have had just in the last 2 weeks a huge Tyson's plant virus outbreak. Ever that is the way it is, those at the bottom having the toughest treatment. And let me just add something more controversial to that. Nothing I've said so far, despite what you might hear, could possibly be deemed controversial. It is just true, the facts as I tried to lay out. As my wife says, it is what it is. But what I want to say in closing might be a little more controversial, but controversial in a different sense. Not that it's inaccurate or untrue, but because it is not to be said. It is perhaps impolite to say. It's rude. And it's a little bit what my new book is about. So let me just finish with these couple things. Despite the poverty and the inequality and the disparity that I just described, what I want to emphasize relates to what's happened in North Carolina in the last decade. We are governed here, essentially, since 2011, by large majority Republican caucuses in both houses of the General Assembly. They write our laws there, they craft our rules, and here's what's rude. They are also all white. No person of color belongs. No person of color is allowed or admitted. None are opened to the door of those closed member sessions because the Republican members of our legislature are all white, and they have been for a decade. And from those all white caucuses, they have produced in the last 10 years the stoutest war on Black people and on poor people seen in the United States in a half century. You know much of it. The largest racial gerrymanders ever presented to an American court, the judges ruled. Deprivations, race-based deprivations of the right to vote with surgical precision. The repeal of the Racial Justice Act, overturning municipal elections because they didn't like the fact that Black Democrats got chosen. Responding to the Black Lives Matter movement by making it harder to get police video footage, making it harder to file race discrimination cases, lionizing Confederate statues, increasing intentionally racial school segregation. The list is long. It's actually much longer than I would go through. And for poor folks, 500,000 denied health care by refusing to accept Medicaid expansion, though the federal government would pay almost for the entirety of it. then followed by the largest cut to unemployment compensation in American history. We became the only state in American history to abolish its earned income tax credit, so raising the taxes of working families making about $35,000 a year, cutting hundreds of thousands of qualifying poor folks from the food stamp program, though it saved us not a penny because the program, of course, is paid for by the federal government, ending the state's entire appropriation to legal aid, making Work First recipients get drug tested, and then keeping the program after it was shown to be a farce, cutting allocations to food banks with one of the highest hunger rates in the country, raising the taxes of poor people while dramatically cutting the taxes of wealthy ones in a reverse Robin Hood move. As if the only thing wrong with North Carolina was that those at the bottom have too much and those at the top don't have enough. And also making life more difficult now for hundreds of thousands of Tar Heels to deal with the virus because of these absurd changes to Medicaid and unemployment compensation and food stamps. All these raise stunning questions about what we stand for as a people. When added to attacks by the legislature on women, on LGBT folks, on the courts, on democracy itself, posing stunning challenges to our own decency. Challenges which I wanted to say, and it's why I'm honored to be here this morning, that you combat through your hard work, your hard study, your generosity, your compassion, your selflessness, your very heroism. I am honored to join you. I want to say to everybody on the line, I'm going to be writing my check to Durham Literacy this morning. I hope you will join me as well. And I'm delighted and past honored simply to join you and be with you. Thank you very much.
Wow, Gene. I'm looking forward to going back and listening to the recording as well, because I'm really grateful for your profound words and for helping connect the dots here.
Well, I'm honored to be with you.
Thank you very, very much. And just, you know, I think this is interesting, and I don't really have a question other than maybe if you could just reaffirm what we're doing here. You know, as we mentioned, these over, I think, at least 769 people came to the Durham Literacy Center last year to get, to start working on their goals. And what is so profound is that each of these people are so unique and so individual. And each of them has a unique struggle they're experiencing. I find them to be extremely brave. Many of them are, you know, the system failed them when they were in school. And so it's like they're choosing to try again.
Yeah. And
it's just a really unique situation. And they're very impressive. And in a minute, I don't want to delay everyone meeting some of our students in video format. But are there things,
well,
I feel...
Let me just sort of put a exclamation point on what you're saying. First of all, I spend a lot of time in low-income communities in North Carolina. I always recommend to our North Carolina leaders to spend time in low-income communities in North Carolina, because the one thing that's clear is our leaders know almost nothing about the lives of low-income folks. Not knowing anything, they substitute a bunch of predispositions which are inaccurate. And there's no more inspiring work to do than actually being in low-income communities and seeing the remarkable efforts and lives which they lead. Low-income folks are potently, dramatically, consistently marginalized in North Carolina. And as you know better than I, but I know a good bit of it, there's no more potent way of being marginalized than having challenges with literacy. In this society, this sort of information-based, internet-based society, not to be able to use some of the fundamental tools which folks have, nothing actually can cut you off more potently than that. So the folks you deal with on a wide variety of fronts, but almost existentially define being marginalized.
That's right.
And then what you see every day is something that I see every day. That is, when you look at, examine, get to know, get shoulder to shoulder with low-income folks in North Carolina, you find them remarkably inspiring, steely in their determination, more resilient and heroic than I know I could muster myself. Right. And I've had the good fortune to do stuff with literacy folks around North Carolina and the country. And that's the constant theme of the people who are volunteers. Their constant theme is how inspired they are by the folks who are, in theory, their students, but become their teachers through the depth of their courage and their commitment. So you are truly doing the Lord's work, as they say, and it comes back in all kinds of directions.
That's right.
It's sad, and this is consistent with the sort of talk I gave. It's sad that we have so much of this work to do in the United States. It shouldn't happen in the wealthiest country on earth. The wealthiest country on earth should not have the most poor kids of any major nation. We have chosen to separate and to marginalize. We have more than any major country turned our back on those things which we say we believe in the pursuit of wealth or a bending to the powers of wealth, I think. So you shouldn't have to do such great work. It shouldn't have to be so ennobling. The students who you work with shouldn't face such potent challenges. But the fact that you do, and you overcome it, and most importantly, they overcome it. What a sense of pride I've seen in families with when the papa develops great and imposing skills much needed. So your work is the heart of our most important work, and I'm glad to raise a glass to it, even if it's a cup of coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Gene. And we want to make sure we have time for folks to watch the video of our students, because then they'll really see, because not everybody gets a chance to meet and get to know our students. So
let's do that.
Yeah, and we're going to get there in just a minute, but I do want to just say, one of our, and I know Amy's going to talk about this in a minute, but we're really excited about your new book. Unfortunately, I have not had a chance to read it. So if for all of you out there, if you'd like to learn more, his books, Indecent Assembly and the Faces of Poverty in North Carolina, are on sale now. And there's a link on our website to purchase them from the Regulator Bookshop. And, Blair Publishing, I understand, is the publisher of your new book, and they are one of our sponsors. So we're really excited.
Oh, good for them. Right.
To have them here today as well. Durham Publishing Company here. So now I would like to introduce Amy Campbell-Bogie, our Director of Development, who'll introduce you to some of the students that I mentioned earlier and tell you more about how you can get involved.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, and thank you, Professor Nichol. We're going to switch very quickly over to give you all the opportunity to meet some of our students. Typically at this event, we have a student speaker, and this year, because this format is so different, we saw it as an opportunity to bring in even more voices than we would traditionally be able to include here. So as we switch over, give us just a second, and this video is also available on YouTube to watch at any time. So please do share it with all of your friends and family members.
Hello everybody, my name is Yesid Blanco. I came from Colombia, South America to Durham a year ago. I'm a pediatrician and a defender of human rights in my home country.
Hello, my name is Tabian Harris and I'm from Durham, North Carolina. I've been a student at Durham Literacy Center for over 2 years now, and I hope that once I graduate, I'm able to work my way to a master's and eventually a doctorate in social work.
Hi, my name is Yarida Escobar. I'm from Mexico, and I have been taking classes in Durham Literacy Center for the last 4 years.
Hello, my name is Tomoko. I'm from Japan. I think I have been studying at the Durham Literacy Center over 3 years.
Hi, my name is Alba. I am from Spain. I have been a student at the Durham Literacy Center for almost 1 year.
I'm originally from Jersey City, but I live in Durham right now. I have been a student for the last 6-7 years off and on.
My name is Almaz Brur. I am from Ethiopia, Africa. I have joined Durham Literacy Center since January 2019.
Hi people, my name is Doris Calix. My country is Honduras, Central America. I have 1 year study Durham Literacy Center.
Hi, my name is Victorino. I come from Mexico. I have been studying English at the Durham Literacy Center around 5 years.
Hello everybody, my name is Doris Erazo and I'm from Honduras, Central America. I've been studying English in Durham Literacy Center for over 2 years now. I really enjoy the classes and everybody there is very nice and kind.
Hi, my name is Massan Adamenu. I'm come from Togo, West Africa. I have been a student at the Durham Literacy Center since 2018.
Hello, my name is Demetrius Harris. I'm from Durham, North Carolina. I have been going to DLC for about 1.5 years.
COVID-19 has made me realize a lot of things. While I'm able to spend more time with my family, it's also made me realize that the resources we have in this world are becoming more and more scarce every day.
During this time at home, I am taking my classes online, I am cooking more, and I'm caring of my family.
My business for the moment is closed. I work in my house. I join different activities. I make the masks, different masks. A little more study English, the cleaning my house, watch TV.
And I think the most impacting me is not be able to get together with people, not going to my classes, not meeting nobody, trying to be so apart from people. And that's kind of weird, not having that human contact.
At home, I learn with my teachers. I'm taking care of my grandchildren, Tessa and Jack. And I'm also partly taking care of our chickens and our garden.
During this time, I hike a lot. I spend a lot of time cooking, and I like to run, take a long walks.
What this place did for me, I mean, this had been for the right time for me to have been here before all this happened, because this have really prepared me where I could sit at the house now to get on the computer now, to pull up different websites
and I have been still working through this coronavirus. Really haven't spent very much time at home because I'm still working, just alternate schedules.
In this difficult period, I can study English and meet friends in online class. I really appreciate it.
And my goals for the future are to become a police officer or a teacher and to help others more. That's all.
My goal for the future is to improve my English, like I always say, and I would like to keep on mind to read 20 minutes or to read a 20 minutes a book for every week and to learn new vocabulary, new words.
And my goals for the next year is studying more English and work with childs. I'm studying in Mexico psychology and I want to be a teacher.
For the future, I would like to take SketchUp software courses to do different designs in 3D models. Then I hope I will get a job according to my career.
My goal for the future is study more English and help more people study English.
I want to get better at writing and reading.
My goal is to return to regular life with friends and family.
For me, Durham Literacy Center, it has been like my second home in North Carolina and US. I appreciate this effort that improved my English skills to a level that has allowed me to express myself successfully from every day in a supermarket to more complicated scenarios. I want to thank the people who has made this happen, to the board of directors, teachers, tutors, and volunteers for their help so that people like me can spread our message now in English. We call people of goodwill in these moments of darkness and pain for the whole planet who do not give up their efforts. Give us the chance to be better human beings, to contribute to this country, and be reborn in the freedom of this great nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Durham Literacy, for everything that you've done for me, and we're going to make it through this pandemic together.
Finally, I would like to say thank you for all Durham Literacy Center community. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
Thanks for everybody to support Durham Literacy Center.
I'm just hoping and praying that we'll reopen and even be 10 times better. And if we can figure this out, maybe other places will be looking at this place to see what we do, and we can be an example for everybody else as far as coming to the tutoring, because we can't give this up. No way. No way, no way, no way, no way.
Thank you all so much. Lizzie and I have probably each watched this video at least a dozen times, and it makes us tear up every single time. It's really fantastic just to see how brave our students are during this crisis, and to hear from them, because we miss them terribly right now. I also want to give a special thanks to the Morgan Creek Foundation, who recently awarded a scholarship to one of our students, Tabian Harris, who was featured in the video. Ty was scheduled to graduate with her high school equivalency diploma this spring. That's unfortunately been delayed because of the closure of Durham Tech's testing center, but she's on track to finish as soon as she's able to take her tests. And she's really excited and ready to start college. So thank you so much to Morgan Creek for supporting our students. Finally, today we'd like to talk a little bit about ways that you can get involved in our work here at the Durham Literacy Center. There are several ways that you can support adult literacy here in Durham. The first of which is to make a contribution. Your money supports that you donate today supports the purchase of instructional materials, the training of the more than 200 tutors who work with our program every year, and it helps us to provide instruction to over 700 adults every year, in person or online. This year is also our 35th anniversary. We'd hoped originally to have a large in-person celebration and kick off a 35th anniversary campaign here this spring. That's all on hold right now because of the COVID-19 crisis. But thanks to all of our sponsors and everyone who's donated thus far, we're closing in on our $50,000 goal for this campaign. Going into this year, we were already facing a deficit due to the loss of federal grant funding. And now with the COVID-19 crisis, we're really in uncharted territory. So everything that you give makes a huge difference to us. We are incredibly fortunate to be a part of the Durham community and have such amazing support from our partners, our local government, and all of the donors and volunteers who make our work possible. You're making it possible for us to weather this storm as an organization and to keep doing this fantastic work here in our community. You can give now by going to durhamliteracy.org. You can take out your phone and use your camera to scan the code on the screen, and it'll take you there right now. If you received a program for this event in the mail, you can also return the envelope that was mailed to you. We feel strongly that the educational services that we provide here at the Durham Literacy Center are going to be even more important in the months and years to come as our students and communities get back to work and work to get back on their feet in the wake of this crisis. Many of those impacted will need to gain additional skills and credentials in order to compete in an increasingly competitive job market. We've also seen predictions from experts nationwide that the high school dropout rate may increase in the coming year as many students feel the need to leave school and work to support their families. That means that the learner-centered programs that we provide here are going to be more important than ever in the years to come, as we are able to offer them more flexible options so that they can get the credentials that they need to gain living wage employment. In addition to donating online, you can also join our John Hope Franklin Literacy Society. This is our sustaining leadership donor program named after our former board member, John Hope Franklin. This program allows people to pledge to give between $500 and $10,000 a year over a 5-year period. And you can learn more and make a pledge today by visiting our website at durhamliteracy.org/JHF Society. Special thanks to all of the current members of the John Hope Franklin Literacy Society. These more than 4 dozen individuals and families have made a pledge to ensure the long-term sustainability of the Durham Literacy Center, ensuring that our work can continue regardless of whatever crisis we may be facing at the time. And we really could not do it without you all. Another way that you can get involved in our work is to become a volunteer. As we've mentioned before, we have hundreds of volunteer tutors who work in our programs every year. We are still figuring out what our plans for the fall are going to be. So if you'd like to learn more about volunteering, the best thing to do is to go to our website at durhamliteracy.org/volunteer or to sign up for our email newsletter, which you can also do online. In addition to tutoring, we also have options for volunteers to provide administrative support or serve on our board or committees. We have a special commitment to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. So women, people of color, and LGBTQ individuals are especially encouraged to get involved. Pictured here, in the bottom left, Bob Breitweiser is our board chair who also tutors with our Youth Achievement Program. In the top left, you see Candace, who's a former ESOL tutor who sadly left us this year to go back to graduate school with several of her students. And in the top right, Paula and Andrew, who are an adult literacy pair, student tutor pair. So there are opportunities to get involved in all of our programs and everything that we do here. Finally, I'd like to say a special thanks to our fabulous board and staff and for all the amazing work that they do every day to provide these services to our students. Especially our staff have been working overtime to provide distance learning opportunities during this crisis and to provide resources and connect students to vital services such as food, housing, and employment assistance right now. We are incredibly thankful for all of your contributions and everything that you do for our students every single day. With that, I thank you so much for attending today and for your support. The work that we do is only possible because of the support of our incredible community, including all of our volunteers, donors, and partners. We'll be posting a recording of this event online shortly at durhamliteracy.org/LIL. We hope sincerely that you are staying safe and healthy during this crisis, and our thoughts are with you now and going forward. Please stay in touch and have a great morning. Thank you so much for attending.